You walk into a room. Nothing is wrong. No one is fighting. No one is even raising their voice. But something inside you shifts. Your brain has already finished its scan. An avoided glance. A smile that arrived half a second too late. A sentence that sounded normal but felt hollow underneath. And here's the part no one talks about. You didn't choose to notice any of that. It just happened. Automatically, like breathing. Most people would call that a gift, but if you actually live inside that kind of mind, you already know the truth. It is exhausting. And today, we are going to talk about why. There are two types of people who develop this kind of hyper-awareness, and understanding which one you are changes everything. The first group was simply born this way. Science calls them highly sensitive persons. Their nervous system processes everything more intensely than average. Emotions, sounds, atmospheres, the energy between people in a room. The world for them is always in ultra-high resolution. The second group didn't start this way. They were shaped into it. Imagine a child growing up in a home where the adults' moods changed without warning. That child couldn't afford to just be a kid. They had to become a radar station. They memorized the sound of tires on the driveway to predict what mood was about to walk through the door. They measured the force of a cabinet slamming and translated it into a threat level. No one taught them this. Their nervous system built it automatically because their brain learned one core message early on. This environment is not safe. Keep scanning. And here's the painful part. That child grew up, but the radar never turned off. So what does this actually look like in adult life? Let's talk about the signs, because chances are you recognize more than one. The first sign is living inside constant analysis. For most people, a message from their boss saying, "Come see me later," is just a meeting. But for you, the moment you read it, something tightens in your chest. You replay the wording. You scan for coldness in the phrasing. You run through everything you did in the last 2 weeks. Your brain is not being dramatic. It is doing exactly what it was trained to do: detect threats before they arrive. But here's what that costs you. While everyone else is simply living their day, half of your mind is taking notes, comparing, analyzing. The result is that you can spend an entire day sitting quietly at a desk and arrive home feeling like you ran a marathon, because mentally you did. The second sign is that the camera turns inward. You don't just analyze other people, you analyze yourself constantly. You feel sad, but instead of simply letting yourself be sad, your mind immediately demands an explanation. Why am I sad? Does this even make sense? I have a good life. Something must be wrong with me. Even joy gets dissected. You laugh at a joke, and 1 second later, part of your mind is floating near the ceiling, evaluating whether the laugh sounded genuine. It's like trying to dance while staring at your reflection in a mirror the entire time. You don't miss a single step, but you lose the feeling of dancing completely. Pause here for a moment. Does this feel familiar? Keep watching, because what comes next explains something most people never connect. The third sign is losing innocence in relationships. Deep awareness eventually teaches you something that most people never see: the backstage of human behavior. You notice that kindness comes with conditions, that an apology can be given just to end the conflict, not because the person truly means it. That confidence is sometimes a curtain drawn across fear. So what happens? A compliment lands and your brain immediately scans for the motive. A promise is made and something in you braces for it to break. You don't become bitter, you become cautious. And sometimes, surrounded by people who love you, you feel completely alone because no one else in the room seems to be seeing what you are seeing. The fourth sign is empathy that cannot be switched off. For most people, empathy is a choice, something they extend towards someone who's hurting. But for you, it's a permanent state. You walk into a room and feel the tension between two people before a single word is spoken. You sit next to a stranger on a bus who is anxious, and your own heartbeat changes in response. A friend tells you about their pain, and 3 days later, that pain still lives somewhere in your chest. You become the emotional regulator for everyone around you. People feel safe near you, understood, but the price is invisible. You absorb what everyone else releases, and very few people ever stop to ask if you're okay. The fifth sign is when it reaches the body. Awareness doesn't stay in the mind, it moves into the body. You drink a coffee, your heart beats a little bit faster, and your nervous system, trained to scan for danger, reads that faster heartbeat as a warning signal. What was just caffeine becomes the beginning of anxiety. A loop starts. The sensation triggers alarm. The alarm triggers stress hormones. The stress hormones create stronger sensations. And suddenly, your body feels like a constant stream of emergency alerts, even when nothing is actually wrong. This is the moment most people start to wonder, is something broken in me? The answer is no. But what comes next is important. The final sign is the need to control everything, quietly, invisibly. When the input becomes too overwhelming, the mind reaches for one last defense: prediction. If I can see every possible outcome before it happens, I cannot be blindsided by pain. So the mind runs simulations. What if this relationship falls apart? What if everything I'm building disappears? How do I react so I don't collapse? The cruelest result of the strategy is what it trades away. In trying to stay ahead of pain, you slowly step outside your own life. You stop participating in the flow of things. You start managing life like a high-risk project, and protection replaces presence. So what do you actually do with all of this? You cannot turn off the awareness. That is not the goal. The goal is to stop carrying everything it shows you. 3 things tend to shift everything for people who find their way through this. The first is learning not to personalize silence. If someone takes a long time to reply, they may simply be tired. If a colleague walks by without a smile, they may have a headache. Not every gap is a message directed at you. The second is learning to observe emotion without solving it. When anxiety shows up, instead of analyzing it, just notice it. My heart is beating faster. That's a physical sensation. Watch it. Let it pass. You do not have to fix every feeling the moment it appears. The third is recognizing that not every insight requires action. You may clearly see someone's insecurity. That doesn't make them your therapist. You may sense instability in a relationship. Sometimes the wisest response is simply to step back and let the world carry what belongs to it. When people learn to do this, something quietly shifts. The awareness doesn't disappear, it softens, it matures. They still see deeply into people and rooms and situations, but they are no longer pulled into the current of everything they see. They move from using awareness to predict to using it to be present, from living inside fear to living inside curiosity. Their life becomes lighter, not because the world becomes simpler, but because they stop trying to carry every unresolved equation on their shoulders at the same time. They cannot turn off the light in their mind, but they learn to adjust its quality, from a sharp beam that exposes every flaw into something warmer, a candle, bright enough to understand human fragility, gentle enough to finally offer that same warmth to themselves. If you recognize yourself somewhere in this, you are not broken. The depth you carry is not a flaw. It's a gift that is simply waiting for your understanding and compassion.